Imagine this. You're hiking in a forest, you see a perfect lakeside spot, you pitch a tent, cook dinner, wake up to birds, pack up, and leave. Now imagine doing that on land that's privately owned. In the United States, that's a quick way to meet a no trespassing sign, a sheriff, or at the very least a very confused property owner. But in Sweden, that scenario can be completely legal. It's called the right of public access, Allemansrätten, and it's one of the most mind-bending, that's real? Rules that most Americans have never heard of. And before you picture chaos, like people setting up a music festival in your backyard, relax. The entire thing runs on one simple idea. You can enjoy nature, as long as you don't disturb and you don't destroy. Today I'm going to break down what this freedom actually lets you do, where the invisible boundaries are, and the parts people always misunderstand. Because the rules are exactly why the system works. And stay to the end, because there's one detail about how close is too close to someone's home that feels like it was designed to stress out Americans specifically. All right, let's get into Sweden's freedom to roam. So first, what is this really? The right of public access is basically a principle in Sweden that lets people move through nature far more freely than Americans are used to. We're talking walking, hiking, cycling, and generally being out in the countryside without needing permission every 5 minutes. In the US, a lot of our outdoor access is built around designated spaces, national parks, state parks, trails, public land, and that's awesome. But in Sweden, the default vibe is more like nature is for everyone, with responsibilities. And that responsibilities part is not optional. It's the whole deal. Think of it like this. In America, as the rule is often private land is private, stay out unless invited. In Sweden, the rule is closer to you can pass through and enjoy nature. Just don't act like a raccoon with credit card debt. Okay, but where does this freedom apply? Because this is where Americans get nervous. Like, wait, can I just walk anywhere? Not exactly. One of the biggest limits is homes. Sweden has a concept that's often described as a peace-at-home zone around a dwelling. The point is simple. People deserve privacy, so you can't just wander into someone's yard, sit outside their window, or treat their garden like a public park. And here's the part that feels strange if you're American. There isn't one universal magic number where the rule switches on and off. It's more about common sense, what would feel like you're intruding. So if you're passing along a path and a house is nearby, you keep moving. You don't linger. You don't stare. You don't set up a picnic like you're auditioning to be their new neighbor. It's less measured by feet and more measured by vibes. Which, yes, is horrifying for anyone who loves clear boundaries and legal certainty. But that's the social contract. Respect people's space, and the system stays generous. Now let's talk about the headline feature, camping. Because when Americans hear freedom to roam, the next thought is, wait, can you camp? Yes, under certain conditions. In Sweden, boss, the idea of pitching a tent in nature for a short time can be allowed as long as you're not disturbing the landowner or damaging nature. Notice the theme. You're not building a permanent base camp. You're not clearing brush. You're not leaving trash. You're basically borrowing a piece of nature for a night and returning it exactly as you found it. And there are important limits. You can't camp right next to someone's house. You can't camp on cultivated farmland. And if you're a big group, and now the rules get stricter, because a few hikers passing through is very different from a small wedding reception with portable speakers. Also, there are areas where camping rules are different, like certain protected areas, nature reserves, or national parks. The point is, this isn't a free-for-all. It's freedom inside a framework. Now here's a detail that surprises Americans who love the outdoors: foraging. Sweden is famous for people picking berries and mushrooms. And under the right of public access, you can often pick things like berries and mushrooms in the countryside, which is wild from an American perspective because in many places in the US, the idea of picking stuff immediately runs into property rules, park rules, permits, and sometimes please don't eat that. But in Sweden, foraging is practically a national hobby. That said, there are exceptions and nuances. Some items are protected species and shouldn't be picked. And some things can require permission depending on how they're harvested. For example, truffles can be a special case because they're usually dug up, and digging changes the ground, so you may need landowner permission there. So the freedom isn't take whatever you want. It's enjoy what nature offers without harming the land. Now let's hit a part that looks simple until it isn't: fires. Because in the US, a lot of people grow up with campfires being part of the outdoor experience. S'mores, stories, bad guitar, the whole thing. In Sweden, making a fire can be allowed, but only when it's safe. And Sweden takes fire safety seriously, especially during dry seasons. Fire bans can happen, and when they do, it's not just be careful. It's don't do it. This is one of those cultural differences that makes the whole system possible. The right of public access works because people don't treat it as permission to do whatever. They treat it as permission to enjoy nature responsibly. And if conditions are risky, you adjust, use designated fire pits, or skip the fire entirely. Okay, now let's talk about water. Because Americans often assume that beaches and shorelines can be complicated. Private beaches, restricted access, homeowner associations, the whole situation. In Sweden, the right of public access applies not just on land, but also in many waterways and along coasts. So swimming, paddling, and enjoying nature near water is part of the general freedom. But again, with limits, you can't intrude on someone's private home area. If a dock is clearly attached to someone's residence, you don't treat it like public seating. It's always the same idea: access, but not intrusion. Now here's a section I call what you thought was included, but nope. Fishing. A lot of Americans hear freedom to roam and think it includes fishing. In Sweden, fishing is not generally included as part of the right of public access in the same way hiking is. There are exceptions in certain areas, like along coasts, and in some of the biggest lakes, where fishing with basic hand tools can be allowed. But outside of those exceptions, you typically need a fishing license or permission from the fishing rights holder. So yes, you can hike freely, but you can't necessarily treat every lake like it's your personal fishing spot. That detail matters because it shows how practical the system is. It's generous, but it's not naive. Now let's cover something else that surprises Americans: motor vehicles. In the US, especially in some regions, people love the idea of taking an ATV out into nature. In Sweden, driving off-road on bare ground with motor vehicles is generally prohibited. The reason is pretty straightforward. It protects wildlife and prevents damage to the landscape. So Sweden's freedom to roam is very human-powered. Walking, biking, skiing, paddling. Yes. Tearing across the countryside on an ATV like you're filming an action movie? No. And this is another reason the system stays sustainable. If everyone could drive anywhere, the land would get destroyed fast. The freedom works because it's designed around low-impact access. Now let's bring it back to the question Americans always ask: so what stops people from abusing it? Two things. One, the rules themselves. Don't disturb, don't destroy, stay away from homes, avoid cultivated land, respect protected areas. And two, culture. In the US, when we think legal right, we often think, how far can I push this before I get in trouble? In Sweden, the right of public access is treated more like, you're trusted. Don't make us regret it. It's a freedom built on restraint, and honestly, that's the part that would feel most unfamiliar to a lot of Americans. Not because Americans are bad people, but because our system trains us differently. We're used to clear signage, liability worries, and strict property boundaries. So if you're an American visiting Sweden, here's the mindset shift. You can enjoy nature in ways that would feel shocking at home, but you have to do it quietly, cleanly, and respectfully. Don't leave trash, don't damage plants, don't get too close to homes. And don't linger where you clearly don't belong, and don't confuse freedom with permission to be annoying. Now let me give you a quick, real-world example. Say you're hiking in Sweden and you find a beautiful clearing. The American instinct might be, okay, whose land is this? Am I allowed to be here? The Swedish system says, if you're not near someone's home, not on cultivated land, and you're not causing damage, yes, you can be there. You can rest. You can enjoy the view. You can pass through, and in many cases, you can even camp briefly. That's not just a travel perk, it's a totally different relationship between people, nature, and property. All right, quick recap. Sweden's right of public access is a real system that lets you roam through nature far more freely than most Americans would expect. But it only works because it comes with responsibility. Don't disturb, don't destroy. Respect privacy near homes, ease and follow local restrictions, especially around protected areas and fire bans. Now I want to know, if this existed in the United States, do you think it would work? Or would it turn into chaos immediately? Tell me which side you're on in the comments, and which part of Sweden's rules surprised you the most. And if you want more things Americans don't know that are totally normal elsewhere, subscribe, because the next episode gets even weirder.